Now my gear tier list, I mean, this is really pretty much how I stand on this, is basically in-game is going to be ambrosial caps and puller rings, I would say. Because between these two of these, they're basically the equivalent of god tier item status. Then Bumblehelm, Firewall Plate, and Skullcrusher and Winter Mitts are kind of like top tier. Now, I think Book of the Dead, you could argue, goes up here even, but it's one of those items that really would be more used for blasts just because of what it has to offer. The same can be said for a lot of these pieces because they're really just one typed. I mean, you do see a lot of people use talents for top tier stuff, so I could say you could see this argument being made here as far as top tier stuff. You'll see people flip flop between Codex and Mitts. I'm a bigger fan of Mitts, but outside of that, I mean, the same could also be said for this helmet here. You see a lot of people flip flop between this, as far as blast and top tier goes. But as far as picking and choosing here, obviously you see this in blast quite a bit too, but it's not as used. Same thing can be said about this as well. I mean, you'll see people use it, but you just don't have as much. All of these pieces down here, you just don't see really as many people strive for them because there's not any reason to. But I mean, overall, this is kind of how I stand on gear, and this is what makes sense to me. So, in case you're wondering, this is basically what I recommend in terms of gear. If we're talking in game, to mid game, and then the blast pieces and the top tier pieces. I mean, I will point out my controversial opinion on one thing with something that is involved with this, which is to say that what is mid-game really focusing on 90% of the time? You'll see a lot of people pick Call of the Deep, this, the Anchor, this, and these pieces, while new, nobody's really touched these, so nobody touches them really. You might see some people do this for, one reason or another. It's not necessary, but you'll see people do it. I mean, ultimately, as far as the pieces are concerned, like this piece is no longer as valuable. I think you're probably also going to see a lot of people that move away from this and move towards something else. It's a little newer and better in its place. And so you're seeing a lot of that. You don't see as many people go to tacits as much, but it's not that people don't do it. This piece here, for example, is still pretty new, but it's top tier shit in terms of what you get. I mean, overall, this is, I think, kind of a pretty good, accurate depiction of what I think in terms of value when it comes to gear. Because the accessories are the ones that are always the most expensive. Like, as far as in-game is concerned, these pieces, while expensive, these are arguably some of the most expensive pieces. I mean, as far as value is concerned, your in-game pieces are going to be all kind of divvied up here. Like those pieces there are all pretty expensive. Like even more so than some of these pieces down here. Like this is, I think pretty accurate. If you were looking at it from that perspective, of what's most expensive to not expensive, this is about right. I mean, I will point out that this piece here is more expensive. Like these pieces over here are kind of not so much, so just follow kind of the rule of left to right. But overall, that's basically how I value gear in terms of what it's worth in terms of value from in-game to mid-game to tier, blasts, and so on and so forth. So in case you were wondering, that's pretty much how I stand on that.